Hi everyone. So today's episode is giving me joy. The joy in my name is coming out because of today's episode. I am very excited to have Mr. Seun here because is I feel like your entire life is like a testimony and an inspiration. And I can't wait for everyone to experience that. But I will start with this question. Have you always been a creative?
Yes, I think from the first memory I remember as early as when I was 1 years, 4 months old, I've been what I would call curious. I
Okay.
remember they just gave birth to my junior sister, and I have a photographic memory. I remember they punctured her ear to put earrings, and they put a rope there, and I was like, "What is this?" And I went there and pulled the rope. I just wanted to see, and then blood everywhere. And maybe I remember it so much because the way my mom beat me that day. I stood beside the blue wall, sky blue wall, and peed on myself. So I've always been a curious person. And eventually I realized that curiosity is one of the first factor of being a creative.
It reminds me of, I think this is the first time I'll be saying this story out there. I think yours was curiosity. Mine was just mischief. Plain old mischief. I think up till now I'm still very mischievous. So there was this time we had this pumping machine in the house and we plug it in the kitchen. So usually when you finish that, the plug is hot. I picked it up and I wanted to taste the heat and I put it on my brother's back.
Wow.
He burnt it. That wasn't creativity.
And well, we'll assume it was still curiosity. And
Okay.
mischief is when you deliberately, it sounded like, you didn't know,
But I knew it was hot.
but you didn't know it would burn. You didn't know the outcome,
Why did
fully.
So we've read I the past couple of hours I have been consuming your book and honestly there are a lot of life lessons. But first question I want to ask is with everything that you've experienced, how do you deal with procrastination now?
Okay.
Because in the book you mentioned that you wished you had made the payment, the refund to the guys earlier on.
Yeah.
And I feel like coming from that, you're going to have this relationship with anything that needs to be get done now must be done now. So how has all of that affected your perception of procrastination?
I think to a large extent, it has made me a person that is not easy to work with because I noticed that the average person is a procrastinator. And many times, people that know me back in Lagos or the photography industry, I write a lot. This morning, I've written something and posted it up. My title is Sometimes Silence is the Best Answer. And many times, people approach me, Mr. Shion, can you be my coach? And most of the time, I know them and I tell them, I can't be your coach. Because for many of them, I know that the last advice I gave you, you've not even implemented it. You now want to waste my time, my destiny. So I realize that for most people, it seems as if my own is too much. I'm so, strict. I wish they were actually paying me for that coaching session. So whether or not they take the advice, no wala. But for me, because of what I've been through, I'm not about to waste time for anything at all. So I remember I had procrastinated even in releasing that book. The book had been ready for 3 years. And I was saying, it's because I don't have money, blah, blah, blah. And I just decided, look, my birthday, October 31st, I'm releasing this, even though I don't have money. And eventually things, fell into place. I got a job from the United Nations to do a movie production. And the exact amount in millions they paid me was what I just used to print the book. So I realized that, look, most of the time when we are procrastinating, even God is also procrastinating to bless you with the resources that you really need. So as you are waiting longer, God too is waiting longer. So
I want to
I was
know
like,
how
not
you got that
anymore.
intel. How do you know that God is
I have
procrastinating?
deep insight into heavenly things. So me and God. I was still telling someone yesterday that I believe there's a library in heaven in which every book on earth that is released, is being slaughtered, because if there's a book of life, there has to be a book of other things. So, so I have
Deep, deep, deep,
connections. I
deep.
have connections.
Okay, a lot of people may not know your story, even if I've been privy to it. I'd like you to just tell us very briefly how what happened in America and everything that led you back here. Just a quick run through.
Okay, so I'm the first of five children.
Okay.
Wanted to be, as at early age of 9 years old, to be like my dad. My dad is one of the top three people I want to be like on earth. He's an accountant, and guess what? At the end of the day, all five of us became accountants. So, getting to secondary school, transferred to commercial department. Maths was my favorite subject because he got me a lesson teacher who was teaching me maths. I did WAEC. Maths was the only subject I got A in. He believed in me enough. They sent me abroad to a school called Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. I got admitted, was to study accounting because I wanted to be like my dad. And it wasn't until the third year of accounting that I realized when I took this class called financial accounting that accounting is not my destiny.
Was it because it was
It
difficult?
was difficult. And you see, in America, if you don't understand something a teacher is teaching you, you can raise up your hand and ask, I don't know, and he has to explain it. And I remember asking the teacher once a question that I enjoy asking questions that will make them look as if they don't know what they are doing. So this teacher was like, you know what, Sean,
Sean?
we'll get back to you in the next class with the answer to that. So, but this class was difficult, and it was then I realized, look, accounting, this stuff is not for me. But around that time too, my mom came over to visit and she asked me for the first time in a long time, what do you want for Christmas gift? I don't know why I said a camera, December 1998. So she bought me this Samsung film camera, started my adventures in photography, and also realized that it seemed I'm somebody that whenever there was a problem, I didn't see the problem. People saw the problem. I saw the opportunity, the solution, especially an opportunity to make money. So my school was disposing, America waste stops a lot. They were disposing books that were old edition. I saw it as an opportunity to start buying them. They call it the $1 sale. Some of those books are like $100. So I buy them, sell them online, partner with Amazon, Yahoo, and eBay, sell them online, make tons of money. Started my first company called Textbook for Less. And in an attempt to scale, my favorite word for the week. In an attempt to scale to be like an Amazon, we started, selling gadgets too. And my first major deal, gadgets, trying to get this supplier, bought it from him, sold it on eBay. By the time I paid the people, the person that I bought it from and sold it, I realized that the guy was a scam. And before you know it, those that bought it from me were like, "Where's my, stuff? You lied to us, blah blah blah." About a dozen people, and I kept procrastinating. I'll refund their money. I was making good money, but I just kept procrastinating. And before you know it, 6 months later, because they had reported, to police, and the email I used to register on eBay and some of this platform was my email at my university, siue.edu. So it was easy for them to track me down, arrested me on June 12th. It was like a law and other type of whatever. I was like, excuse me, are you Mr. Shenwaki? Very respectful. Can you follow us to the station? And that was the last day I saw, free sunshine in, America. And was in transferred to like four different prisons. You would think I was like a Osama bin Laden or something. And after spending about 6 months, so I think the 1 week to being deported, I actually got angry because I celebrated my birthday in prison, October 31st. So the week after my birthday, I wrote the American government a letter. I was like, what did I do exactly? Did I kill somebody? You said, yes, you gave me student visa and I started business. Yes, I violated, do whatever you want to. So they replied, oh, we're so sorry, Mr. Sheon. They had a lot of mix up, September 11, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry, we'll deport you by next week. Voila, I got back to Nigeria, November 24. And, eventually I got into the photography industry. And I remember my dad sitting down and asking me, so what next now? Actually, he didn't ask, he just told me. So you are going to be going to the ICANN office to, get ICANN form. That was the first time I told him, I'm not an accountant. And got into photography industry. And about 2 decades later, I'm writing a book about my journey from prison to photography.
So, in your book, you mentioned how supportive your parents were,
Yeah.
despite the challenge that came with you being deported and they finding out and everything. What gave you the courage to say no? I feel like after they've gone through all of that and they come out, when
If
they
you
say
just say
jump,
they are,
once
I'll
they
to
say
be
jump,
jumping.
just say how high, daddy. Like, what gave you the courage to say no?
Okay, so perhaps the question can be rephrased as who gave me the courage to say no?
Okay.
And it was one gentleman like that called Sam Adeyemi. So when I got back to Nigeria, I actually rededicated my life to Christ. All the experience I experienced, it's not good to fall down in the same place twice. So, because I know that I heard and just sensed in my heart that Nigerian prison will be like American prison. Remember, there was one prison in America that after lunch, before dinner, they will give us cookies again, in between. Here in Nigeria, they even count the rice that. So I was like, I can't repeat that. So I was like, God, lead me to the right church. And Daystar Christian Center was the only church as of 2003 that was actually teaching entrepreneurship, which I felt was like my calling. Uh, and they were not just saying, give to the Lord, give. They were teaching us, this is how you make the money. So by the time you make the money, giving was easy. So one part sermon Samadi Emi preached was like, uh, what are you passionate about? That is a sign of what God wants you to do. And then I reviewed everything. I knew I was good with IT. I knew I was good at sporting opportunities, and I knew I was good at photography. I concluded on photography. And the next question he was preaching on his altar was, what is that in your hand? Because God told Moses, what is that in your hand? And I told my dad then, and buy me a camera. They said, no, after I sent you, I brought camera, call. I started looking at my hand and I saw a camera phone, a Nokia 7200 0.3 megapixel camera phone. And I started. So technically, you could say it was the boldness of a Samadi. I'm the type of person that when I listen to a message, I I don't waste time in procrastinating. I try to take action. So the boldness that he he gave out was what gave me the bold. That if at least one person can say God told him this and this is what he's doing, if I can replicate him, so he gave me the boldness, basically.
Okay, so it will be expected that coming from everything that you've been through, that the first point of call will be to lose faith in God. Because some of us have not even gone through half, not even a quarter. And the first thing that we're doing is there mustn't be a God. If I have to trek under sun, why is it that it's my time that fuel is 670? So people in long distance relationship now they are complaining because you cannot,
Breaking up.
a lot of things are going on. And the first thing you just be like, God will not want me to suffer. So the fact that I'm in this situation, it means that this God that everyone is speaking about is definitely not for me. How are you able to maintain your faith through all of this? Because the days were dark. You spent about 6 months just
Yeah,
not
only.
knowing. You said what?
Only.
6 months only.
The way I look at it, other people spend longer. It's
Actually.
because I wrote them a letter that they even remember my case. So imagine if I didn't write them a letter.
So it was a long time, like uncertainty. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know how your family was faring here because it was difficult for you there, but it was also very difficult for family here.
Yeah, yeah.
So the question is, how were you able to maintain, like, come out and still have enough faith to allow faith to drive your life?
Okay, so I think it comes down to the relationship I believe I had and still have with God. Interestingly enough, coming back to Nigeria, I realized that the average Christian here doesn't have the understanding of who God is like I did. The average person here believes when I become a Christian, everything will be rosy. They have their definition of delay. Who said if you are 50 and you're not married and you tried your best, that's delay? Who even gave you the timetable that says, you understand? So for me, I think because I studied the Bible and I read books a lot, and thank God to my parents that gave me that foundation. One of my greatest influencers is Jerry Jenkins that wrote the Left Behind series. So my understanding of God was more in line with the God of the Old Testament. That you could see how sometimes if the children of Israelite messed up, discipline. You understand? So it wasn't the God that said everything will be rosy. In fact, I was reading the Exodus recently, and it mentioned how God said, Moses, don't let them pass through here because if they drive out all the children of Israel at one time, the beast of the field, so let them pass through.
A
So
longer road.
my own understanding of God made me realize that what was written in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good, all things. And many times, if you know that you are dealing with somebody that is a master chess player, that regardless of the move, this guy will still win. And then
Exactly.
when I look at the life of the person we called our master, Jesus, the guy died at 33 or it wasn't even up to 34 years. Who says that 80 years old is guaranteed for me? And he was fulfilling God's will. So look at all the shege even Jesus went through. And one of my favorites, two men in the Bible, Job and Jeremiah. Jeremiah preached to the children of Israel for over 30 years. And it was recorded that not one repented. So I'm like seeing all these my mentors, my mentors that have gone ahead. I was like, what I've gone through is nothing. If I see what Jeremiah has gone through, I mean, I never start. So God, thank you that you've not made my own as difficult as yours. Thank you that your grace is available for me. So I think my own relationship with God made it easier for me to know that, look, despite what I was going through, God was still directing me. He has a plan. So that at the end of the day, people will say it from the depth of their hearts, the meaning of my name, Oluwaseun.
I like what you mentioned about all things working together for good. So, in retrospect, having to spend only 6 months
Yeah,
in four different American jails, what do you think was the good in that? What was the
good that came
yeah?
out. Okay, maybe the word will be the goods because it was plenty good. Interestingly enough, I tell a few people that care to know that the best experience I had in my 4 years plus in America was while I was in prison. I met the best people, the most, just like Miles Monroe that said, the most talented people are in the
Grave,
grave,
yeah.
the most repentant people are in prison. One of the guy that taught me the importance of documenting your life was somebody that I literally led to Christ because I started holding a Bible fellowship inside one of the prisons. And this guy was in prison for 10 years sentencing for cocaine. And it was like, I have this challenge. I've been married 3 times. I didn't divorce any of them. When they release me now, who will be my real wife? I was like, na jump question you asked. So I was like a Bible study leader, in prison. I, counseled many people because there are people that killed people that their crimes was, and my own, I was considered a hero. That financial crime, man, you must be intelligent. So it was as if God sent me there to meet some people, counsel them, and more importantly, for him to deal with me there too. And by the time I realized, looking at history, there are many great men that passed through the walls of a prison, starting from our great great grandfather Joseph in Egypt, in those days. I was like, God is up to something. So, uh, yeah, I think that's that's basically it.
Okay, let's talk about regrets. Let's talk about guilt. In the book I read about the man that is I think it was one of the preachers that
Yeah,
yeah, he he had the responsibility of babysitting his
yeah,
grandkids, and
it's
then
true.
he drove drunk, had an accident,
And he
and
died.
the grandkids died. How do you move from that kind of that like that? I feel like it's a burden.
Yeah.
It's something that even if you heal, you're always going to remember that this is what happened because you have kids that they are going to feel very disappointed.
Mm.
How did you move from regrets? Because you were the first son, you are the first son of the
Yeah.
family. Were sent to school and you decided to do everything but
That's
but
cool.
school. Like I read the part where you said you had an exam,
Yeah.
and instead of
Finance.
focusing on the exam, we are building a website.
My website.
And then when everything came full circle, you didn't want to have the conversation with your parents. You didn't want to let them know that this was what happened. That's why you reached out to your friend. How do you move on from that level of guilt? How do you stop being mad at yourself? To Because sometimes we tend to face the past so much that we don't look forward. How do you do that?
Okay, so there are two things that has worked for me, and one of it has to do with the reading culture that I, imbibed over the years. I read books that talk about different people's challenges, and most of the time, most of the books I read, I'm like, I've not gone through this much shege. And I'm like, so why am I beating myself? I read Richard Branson's book, Bill Gates, history, and Elon Musk and the challenges his parents' marriage had. I'm like, these people had it worse more than me. I'm like, so why should I, be crying over her spilled, Zobo? So for me, I realized also that because the average person, once again in Nigeria, there's a level of relationship with this Christianity, this God, that we don't yet have. And we don't have or understand really how God can heal you to the point that both the person that you hurt and you are best friends again. So most of us have not gotten to that level. So for me, that is why, for example, I take music so serious. Music is a super therapeutic, power that I listen to. Sometimes I listen to some worship music more than I read even my Bible. Because I tell people if a whole God can have like a third of the angels for music alone, him too say he want to calm himself down. How much more we not taking so taking my relationship with God so seriously, I can literally tell you that helped me. Uh, I still had an encounter with an army officer yesterday night that the guy was trying to provoke me unnecessarily. If I see him this morning, I'll still give him a ride. So that level of forgiveness, each time I remember, see what these people did to Jesus and he still forgave them. Who am I? And each time I, dip myself in that knowledge and understanding, it's not as if I've been to heaven, saw revelations. No, each time I think about that and it comes to as simple as that, our Lord's Prayer, that forgive us our trespass as we forgive. I'm like, what did someone do that I'll not forgive them? I want God to forgive me. So my understanding of God and his ways, makes it totally easier. I have nothing against any. Before I look forward to meeting that Michael Jackson guy that duped me. I know that we'll meet. If not on earth here, our mansions will be on the same street in heaven. We have to meet.
You guys
So
have to have a conversation.
no, we will.
Okay, how important was family? Because your expectation was that when you come down from the aircraft, you will collect.
Yes.
But how important was family in finding the next phase for you?
Okay, so I think first of all that I know people say that a lot, but for me, God really orchestrated my life, and thank God I was born in the family I was born in. My parents really, really tried. In fact, they've tried so much that now I feel guilty for asking them. The car I brought, for example, is my dad's car. When I was coming to Abuja, I had to send, Dad, can I please use your car? He did not reply, yes, you can, sir. It sounded funny, but I won't take it for granted. So I remember they had placed some calls. He had some friends. One of our uncles is the head of immigration. And by the time I was getting there, there was already word down there. My son is coming. Technically, I didn't commit any crime. The crime was instead of business visa because my dad had refunded those people's money. So I was, crimeless in quotes. So by the time I was getting down, normally if it was a crime I had committed, kiri kiri straight, except someone. But what had been put down by the time I passed immigration, you just think I was a visitor that came back. And my family made me better understand that part of the Bible that we call the prodigal son, whatever, because that's the first most memorable hug I can remember getting in my entire life as at then. The father that is hugging you. Well, if you had seen us, you would have known that this guy brought shame and he was still hugging. So family, if not for family, maybe I'll probably be in heaven by now.
Okay, so we've heard about the not so great but really great side. So tell us about what you do now. You are an amazing photographer. Like it even reflects in the cover of your book, like the pictures you took on each chapter, amazing. So right now, do you think that you are fulfilled, happy with photography?
Okay, so I tell people that I'm not a photographer.
Okay.
In fact, after all the trainings I attended this week, because coming to Abuja was more like an educational vacation for me.
Okay.
I hate staying in the same place for too long without going out. So sometimes I go to Dubai, sometimes I just leave Lagos because Lagos is stressful. So for me, I, as a last year when I released the book, redefined who I thought I was, or who I felt God was telling me I was. That Sean, now you're an author, a speaker, and an inspiration. And as a last weekend, I just narrowed it down to one. Simple, I'm an inspiration. Whether it's photography I do for you, I do videos too now. Whatever of my product that you see out there, if it's not inspiring, it probably didn't come from me. So when it comes to photography, I'm somebody that I like raising other people. So, in fact, one of the guys that took the front cover picture of me, I don't know the cover that I gave you guys.
You were in the
Yemi Kings.
orange.
Orange, okay, Yemi Kings. He was, he's a great. If you check to his page now, his guy is doing well. Uh, he learned at my own studio, so I give them the opportunity that look now, Yemi Kings, your brain is even fresher than mine. You must take this picture. Another lady, Busayo Speckles, she took because we did three covers,
Okay.
so they took all those pictures. So I don't consider myself a photographer, especially because I don't do volume job. If someone wants me to cover their wedding now, for example, I'll probably won't charge less than 5 million naira. How many people will want to pay 5 million? So many times when they call me, I'll be like, well, I know Yemi Kings. Yemi Kings can charge you 1 million. So I refer people that I've raised. So you could call me a photographer's photographer because I'm more fulfilled knowing that I'm raising people. And I may not use the word happy because if you want to say happy, if I look at my bank account balance, I'm not happy with it. But fulfilled, yes. Knowing that for each write up that I churn out, for a feedback from people that read my book, going to visiting different prisons in Nigeria and meeting different people, I'm fulfilled. Definitely, I'm fulfilled.
Awesome. So, just tell us about some of the recent projects you've been on and how it has been.
Okay, so one of the most recent one was when that book came out. I started, visiting prisons, and interestingly enough, that book has sold more for donation to prisoners than, in fact, I don't think up to 20 photographers have even bought a copy. Photographers, we don't read. So I think many more parents have bought it to say, my son, that it's as if my son is a replica of you. Let me, so visiting all those prisons, I think I eventually had to stop sometime in March because it was emotionally draining. I mean, you meet some people, most of those in prison, over 90% of them, first of all, are men. And then many of them, it was one anger issue that got them there. One conductor that didn't give them change, they slapped the conductor, the guy fell down, died. They don't want to hear the story, prison straight. So different stories. So that has been one of my most fulfilling projects in maybe the last 9 months. The other one that I've found myself doing is publishing. I I help people document their journey, even though I don't charge cheap for that. So take for example, when if I can spend 5 minutes with you and you tell me the story of your life. I know there are many people that they call themselves ghost writers out there. I can let you know like this story is something that would impact quite a number of people. So at present I have a client because my writing is being read by different people all over the world. Based in one is based in Dallas now. I'm helping her write her book. She'll be 16 in November.
Okay.
And I believe for every 10 years you live on this earth, you owe the world at least one book just to summarize your shege so that people won't repeat
Why
it.
is he always
I
shaking?
just love that word. Whoever invented it, I should, meet him. So I help people, on their writing, journey. And maybe right now I'm still also trying to just rediscover or discover my next level. Bouquet, chaos,
FAUX.
fox, I think,
EPIPHANY.
epiphany,
NUANCES.
NUANC, nuances.
Would you rather live in a world with no technology or a world without nature?
I'd rather live in a world with no technology. We need nature, even though it will be a difficult choice.
Okay, so you mentioned textbook for less, and you mentioned buying the books from the school authorities at $1. How did that go? How wasn't there some form of resistance when you were trying to get these books or anything? How did it go?
And well, initially, I share this with a few entrepreneurs that are like my protege that when you start your company, be careful how you talk. Most of us, you could make 1 million naira now. Some people just put up the screenshot. I just hammered. Just talk less. For me, I remember making so much money and you carry all the books that people order, take it, package it, take it to the post office. And I think I was 22 years old, and I was just so excited how easy I thought it was to make money. And I'll get to the post office and they'll be like, "So, sir, what do we have here?" I'll be like, somebody in Dallas just bought ordered these books, and another person in Arizona, and that's how I have all this. In fact, I bought it for $1 at the bookstore. Now this one I sold it for. I was just talking anyhow. Before I knew it, the school authorities, called me for a meeting. I knew it was those people that had gone to. How can you report that I'm bringing so much too much job for you? Am I not paying for it? So school eventually banned me from buying. They said, look, we
Wow.
didn't intend for business to be made out of this. Henceforth, no student in the school campus shall be entitled to buy more than 10 books. And I was like, I think I had the spirit of Dangote. For every challenge that comes, he will find a way, no matter what. Maybe he too serves the God that finds a way when there seems to be no way. So I was like, what should I do? What should I do? I was, I have plenty of friends. Apparently it was America I discovered that I was funny. So many Americans, Shion, you're very funny. So I got a lot of friends, give them $10, yeah, queue, enter, go and buy. I'll be waiting outside. And then the business continued. Eventually, I moved off campus because you can't be, and I was posting it at the post office off campus. So for every challenge that came, a real entrepreneur will find a way, no matter
Yeah.
what, even if fuel price is 1,000 naira per liter.
Yeah. Reading the book, I discovered that you have a way of finding opportunities.
And they are everywhere. They are everywhere.
Tell us about it, like some of the opportunities that you've been able to take advantage of based off of what you've seen.
Okay, so I can't probably say where it originated from, but one of the things I try not to do is to be in a company of people that complain. Because I notice when I'm in that company, you will always see things that are going bad. So, for example, when I read inspirational books, there are people that I deliberately follow on Instagram. In fact, everybody here, as of right now, maybe the only person I can follow. That's why I won't just say because you invited me, I'll be following your page. I don't know if your page is inspiring yet. Maybe if I get there, and you shouldn't take it to offense. Right now, the only person I may follow maybe him because I heard him speak. He really inspired me. So when I consistently follow people that inspire me, they help me to see good in every whatever. So when the dollar whatever is going up, I'm thinking, what can I do to take advantage? My book, I can be promoting it on Amazon. Right now, as I'm speaking, Amazon sent me a mail last week, your royalty from the sales of your book. I was like, hey, that's making sense. So everybody is complaining dollar, dollar. Even if it's $10 a month they are sending, it's still something. So I always try not to go with the way the crowd thinks. In fact, I have been trained to focus on the problems that people are complaining about and
Yes.
try to hatch out the opportunity that is there. It takes maybe at least a decade to develop that type of mindset. Yeah, at least a decade. But once you develop it, there's when you realize that since Jesus was on earth, price of bread has been increasing. Is it now that you feel one president will reduce it? Find a way to still, make a way. So that's just it for me.
Okay, so a final question. When the arrest was made, when the policemen came into your room off campus, how did you feel? Like, did you immediately know that this is doomsday? Was it, what were the emotions basically on that particular day?
I could still remember me sitting there in front of my Dell desktop. My hair was scattered because I was a workaholic just on the computer all the time, taking some orders. And then, the policemen knock at the door. Still remember the apartment, 50 Devon Court, in Roseville. It was as if the judgment day has finally come. Many of us have, skeletons in our cupboard that you are silently praying and hoping nobody will find out about. And there's just that one thing that will happen that you go, what's in more? So for me, it was as if I knew that this day will come, at least subconsciously. And when those policemen showed up at my door. By the time I got into the first car, by the time I was, in the first jail, before you know, I was, spilling out lyrics in my head like Job, woe unto me the day I was born. I was just feeling suicidal. I was feeling, if I can just carry the gun of this policeman, kill myself, because it was a big shame, not just disgracing your family. The first of five, the first in my generation to be sent abroad, uh, now the first to be shaming, the Akinsanmi family, and now you are not just shaming them, you are literally shaming Nigeria, because the accumulation of every crime that a Nigerian does gives American an image of Nigerians, so it was too big a burden, to hold, and I felt I should just die. And thank God there was no, tools for me to kill myself. I probably would have. In fact, that's why I'm working on one of my next book. It's titled How Not to Live. Uh, because I've attempted suicide at least twice. And I know the fulfilled life I'm living now, 20 years later. I tell people, no, living life, regardless of which country you are in, if you partner with God, is worth it. You don't need to live that way. So it was a terrible feeling, very terrible.
And in retrospect, how do you feel now?
How do I feel now? I feel like a character in the third version of the Bible that will be written later on. The way we read the New Testament, consider that like the second version. And that's why I'm deliberate about, how I live my life, because I want to live my life in such a way that I'm actually partnering with God's Spirit to know how the script will be written. So sometimes, maybe somebody will call me. My mom can call me a lot, like 20 times in a day. And then I'll be avoiding the call, and then I'll just sense my, God saying, so is that if they write your script, they'll now write that he was avoiding the moms. So I'll quickly pick up the call. So I'm more deliberate, and it takes a lot of work. Sometimes it takes you telling a policeman that arrested you, and it's his fault, to now call him back and say, I am sorry, even though you know that, but it's more because of the reputation you want to build and the type of person you want to be known for 100, 1,000, or 10,000 years from now. So I'm more deliberate, knowing that I'm a character playing in a script that will be one day told and packaged in a book that probably will be placed in either the library of heaven or every library on earth. So it's a fulfilling experience, I think.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us. It has been a delight, and we're sure that everyone that has seen this episode or that we see this episode, they are going to be inspired to move beyond the weight of guilt to being better at accepting people that have failed in our eyes.
Truth, until you are dead, you have not failed, in our eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In our eyes. So thank you so much for coming, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Today's episode has been all shades of amazing, and we're inspired. Till next episode, don't forget to spill it.